Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about the big news of this morning. Duke Johnson of the Cleveland Browns has been traded to the Houston Texans, and our boy Nick Chubb is finally free at last. Nick Chubb, for the first 8 games of the fantasy football season, is going to have full reign as a 3-down back of the Cleveland Browns. We're going to talk about the fantasy implications of Nick Chubb going into this season, while also after that talking about Duke Johnson and how he's going to contribute to the Houston Texans backfield to help Deshaun Watson and then potentially affect the potential of Lamar Miller in 2019. Before we begin today's episode, I want to remind you all that I have started my Patreon. The link is down in the description for any of those of you who are willing to support. Not only do you get things in return for your support, but you get my love. So for those of you, the 31 of you out there who have already supported, much love. Love you all. And I can't thank you guys enough. Much appreciated. All right. Also, for today, we got Xavier Rhodes playing some tight press coverage on you. Our entire goal at this point for the next about 25 seconds is to get your cursor to that subscribe button. Go, whether it's with a slant route, a 9 route, a comeback, a post corner, hit Xavier Rhodes with your best move. Get that cursor to the subscribe button so you can be a part of the community and get fantasy football content for the entirety of the 2019 season. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Okay, so we're talking about Nick Chubb. We're talking about Duke Johnson. Pretty amazing trade. The thing is, Duke Johnson, for this entire offseason, since they signed Kareem Hunt, has wanted out. He's wanted out of the organization. He earlier mentioned that he would hold out. That never happened. And eventually he showed up to practice. He was a full participant. And finally, Freddie Kitchens, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, decided, you know what? We don't need him anymore. We can trust in Nick Chubb to be our 3-down back going forward. And whether or not we use Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb is going to be the full guy. And to be honest, he's going to be an RB1 this coming season because of this. Prior to this trade, in my opinion, I already had Nick Chubb as a higher-end RB2 within that 13 to 14, 15 range at the ranking spot. So as of right now, it's not going to make a giant difference, but this definitely gives Nick Chubb the ability to move himself into that top 10 conversation of the running back position going into the 2019 season. So let's talk about Nick Chubb, what he was capable of doing last season, because with this kind of an opportunity, I potentially can see Nick Chubb tearing apart and burning down the league by himself. With what he was capable of accomplishing last season in the last 10 games of the season, it's incredible, and I think he's going to just build upon it. With all the additions that the Cleveland Browns offense has made, this offense is going to be it's going to be firing on all cylinders, and I think it starts with Nick Chubb. So what did he do last year? Obviously, he came into a crowded backfield with Duke Johnson already there as an established receiving back, and they had signed Carlos Hyde. Now, obviously, for the first 6 games of the season, Nick Chubb really didn't do anything. He was just contributing very little. He had one game where he had 3 carries for 100 rushing yards, and even after that, the next week, didn't get too many touches. Until finally, the Cleveland Browns came to their senses after they had obviously fired their head coach, got Freddie Kitchens Freddie Kitchens taking over this offense instead of Hugh Jackson, and they kind of shifted the momentum of the organization. So they traded away Carlos Hyde, and they allowed Nick Chubb to be the starting back of this team, and he ran away with it without a doubt. From weeks 7 through 17, he had 176 rushing attempts, 823 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, 28 targets, 20 receptions for 149 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, all for 155.2 fantasy points in that 10-week span. Also, in that 10-week span, he was the number 8 running back in fantasy. Pretty good production there from Nick Chubb. Now, that was all with Duke Johnson still getting 40 targets out of the backfield and 21 rushing attempts. Duke Johnson was still contributing within this offense, yet it didn't matter because Duke Johnson, he's not going to really affect you in the running game. And when Mr. Nick Chubb was sitting behind the second best graded offensive line from 2018, according to Pro Football Focus last year, and given 7 games of 18 plus rushing attempts, you can't stop him. He was incredible last year. Also, some other stats that I pulled from Pro Football Focus, just to express to you how dominant Nick Chubb was in the back half of the season and why the Cleveland Browns were able to turn everything around with Baker Mayfield obviously coming in and then the addition of Nick Chubb getting a ample amount of opportunity and acting upon said opportunity. According to Pro Football Focus last season, Nick Chubb was the highest graded running back amongst all running backs. Yes, he was the highest graded running back, even higher than your Saquons or your Gurleys or your McCaffreys. Nick Chubb was the highest graded back. It's incredible. On top of that, since 2009, the elusiveness that Nick Chubb provided last season was the second highest grade that they've given since 2009. So to like try to express this. So 2017, Alvin Kamara, as of right now, according to Pro Football Focus, had the most elusive season where he forced the most missed tackles. And I don't know, their way of grading elusiveness with their metric system, right? Since 2009, they've been recording that stat, and Nick Chubb has the highest grade on that specific stat, which is ridiculous because when you think of Nick Chubb, you think, okay, 4.5 speed, a bulkier running back, a guy that can punish defenses, but you don't think of a guy that's going to force missed tackles. You're thinking a guy that's going to just run through them, but elusiveness, he's still got it. He has the ability, and he presented that last year. On top of that, he had 4.47 yards after contact per carry. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. Nick Chubb was an animal last year, and it doesn't stop there. Nick Chubb, whether that's in between the tackles, on the outside, going against linebackers, corners, defensive linemen, the guy was able to be a home run hitter for this Cleveland Browns offense. In fact, having only started 10 games, again, Nick Chubb tied for the second most rushes of 20-plus yards last season with 11 total rushes of 20-plus yards. I mean, the guy's an incredible talent. And now that he's going into the 2019 season as the sole back of this team for the first 8 weeks, the way I see it and the way I saw it even prior to Duke Johnson being traded, I don't see an offense in which the Cleveland Browns are succeeding, firing on all cylinders, and then as soon as Kareem Hunt shows up, they're going to kick out Nick Chubb. Why would they do that? As a coach, you would never replace a guy that is working. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Why would you change anything? And they weren't going to, because I fully anticipated Nick Chubb having a great season from weeks 1 through 8. But now that Duke Johnson's not there, and they're going to incorporate Nick Chubb within the passing game, obviously he's going to have to work on his pass protection. He'll get that done. He's a big, strong back. He'll take care of that, right? He's just got to find a patience, learn, and it'll be just perfectly fine. But as soon as they get him more incorporated with this passing game, I mean, even last season, in the 10 games that he started, 28 targets, 20 receptions, pretty good catch rate right there. 2 receiving touchdowns. Obviously, there is some room for improvement, just with anybody in life, right? There's room for improvement. And I think as soon as they give him that opportunity and he acts upon it, Nick Chubb's going to prove to everyone that he is perhaps even better than just a top 10 back. He's a guy that potentially could vie for the rushing title, assuming Ezekiel Elliott doesn't get any deal done anytime soon. He's a guy that is within one of the, at least perceived, best offenses in the NFL going into 2019, behind one of the better offensive lines. I know they traded away Kevin Zeitler to the New York Giants this offseason, but still, one offensive lineman doesn't make an entire offensive line. It's a unit. And when you have a unit of guys that are all working together with good chemistry and they're just blowing apart teams like they did last season, it's only going to get better. And I think Nick Chubb going into 2019, I mean, I'm excited. I can't wait. This is some of the best news I've heard all day. Later today, we got preseason football, so everything's going fantastic. Perfect. Okay. Now, outside of Nick Chubb, right, the other part of this trade has to do with Duke Johnson. He's going over to the Houston Texans. Now, the other day I mentioned Deontay Foreman had been released by the Houston Texans, which came to me as a big surprise because of the fact that last season, Lamar Miller, he did deal with injuries, but even in the games that he was healthy, Alfred Blue had a pretty good chunk of the offense. Alfred Blue, who is now with the Jacksonville Jaguars, the former Houston Texan, he saw about 8 to 10 rushing attempts per game, even when Lamar Miller was healthy. And he also got a pretty good amount of the passing work because that's technically what Alfred Blue is best at doing, is working in the passing game. So even then, there was a two-headed kind of monster in the Houston backfield last season. Yes, Lamar Miller was the number one, but there were still some splits there where Alfred Blue was getting a lot more touches than we thought. And going into 2019, I personally thought Deontay Foreman is going to be able to vie and potentially take away this job and be given the opportunity to eventually maybe become the RB1 of this Houston Texans team. They cut him, no big deal. He's gone. He's signed with the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are just racking up running backs. Really quick sidebar. They have Marlon Mack, who we expect to be fantastic. They have Nyheim Hines, who is potentially their receiving back. I know they didn't use him very much in the second half of the season. Still, they have Spencer Ware. Now they have Deontay Foreman. They also, what was the other rookie that they drafted last year outside of Nyheim Hines? I can't even remember his name. Why? Because he didn't even see too many touches outside the first 4 weeks. Didn't really see much. So, God, I'm going to forget his name. It's going to bother me. But we're moving on. Going into 2019, Duke Johnson joining the Houston Texans, there's some uncertainty with it. Now, let me explain to you why. Duke Johnson in 2017, as a member of the Cleveland Browns, was a top 15 running back in fantasy in half PPR. In a full PPR, the guy was an RB1. Can you imagine that? Now, the reason because, when you play alongside Deshaun Kaiser, rookie quarterback, and gosh, Kaiser was awful in his rookie year. They went 0-16. What was he to do, right? That was just a bad team. That was bad coaching. Everything about that season was ass backwards, plain and simple, right? So, as pretty much the leading receiving option, because Deshaun Kaiser would drop back and see nothing, dump it off to Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson would make some plays, right? So that's how Duke Johnson was able to incorporate himself within that offense. Obviously, he had some work in the running game as well, which he has potential. Some draw plays here and there, some outside handoff, sweeps, toss, pitch. The guy, he gets it done. Duke Johnson's a good running back in the NFL. Now, for fantasy purposes, going into the Houston Texans offense, it's not great. Deshaun Watson last season only targeted running backs 13% of the times, which was the least amongst all quarterbacks last year. Yikes. That is unfortunate. Now, obviously, Duke Johnson is better than Lamar Miller or Alfred Blue in the passing game. That is a given. So potentially, Bill O'Brien is going to bring in a guy like Duke Johnson in order to expand the passing game of this offense. A lot of the fact that Deshaun Watson was sacked, 60-plus times last season? His offensive line was bad, but he never had a running back to check the ball down to protect himself. Obviously, he either scrambled or, rolled out and was able to throw the ball off his back foot and figure it out. But as of right now, when they're bringing in a guy like Duke Johnson, they're being, a little bit more cautious with the health of Deshaun Watson. I think it just gives them another option to, out of the backfield, just, dump something off. Don't have to force a play. Don't have to use your legs to make a play. Dump the ball off. Let Duke Johnson get the work done. Many quarterbacks, similar to like Cam Newton. Cam Newton last year, with the addition of Christian McCaffrey, his completion percentage went up nearly 10% because of the checkdowns that were consistent, right? And then Christian McCaffrey, all he had to do was get the ball, make a play, which he was able to do. Now, if Duke Johnson can help Deshaun Watson increase his passing completion percentage and, by proxy, help out his fantasy production by making some plays with his legs, with Duke Johnson's legs, that is, there's some potential there. Now, when we talk about Duke Johnson specifically, I don't think he has much more value than he did as a part of the Cleveland Browns. Yes, he's a receiving back, and that's primarily where he's going to be used. I doubt that they're going to give him 100-plus rushing attempts as a part of the Houston Texans. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, if it does, I'll be proven wrong, and Duke Johnson's going to be a hell of a back if he's given that kind of an opportunity. But as of right now, Lamar Miller is pretty much that RB1. Going to take care of 200 rushing attempts on the ground. Lamar Miller had about 40 targets last season. So really not too heavily used in that passing game. So I can see Lamar Miller obviously dropping down boards. He's already low enough, right? People already despise the potential that he has and not being able to act upon it. Like I've mentioned before, he's been an RB2 the last couple of years into half PPR. His stock's going to drop in average ADPs. Duke Johnson's is going to rise accordingly because he's going to be given more opportunity here. And I think it's going to help his fantasy stock, but not by too much. I think if you play in a full PPR, I think fantastic. Duke Johnson's a viable potential flex option in good matchups if the Houston Texans use him properly. If he's used similar to what he was last season at the end of the year with the Cleveland Browns, yes, he had some games, 9 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets. Those are great games. But if you're going to give Duke Johnson 3-4 targets a game, he's not going to have as much opportunity to make a big play or try to get in the end zone. So that makes it a little bit tougher, especially in a full PPR. It really depends. But as of right now, man, this is fantastic news. Literally doesn't make me happier because Nick Chubb, if you already own shares of Nick Chubb, get ready. It's coming. I mean, the Nick Chubb train it's going, and his fantasy stock is going to rise to some unwanted places. For those of you who haven't drafted yet, Nick Chubb's going to be taken earlier than usual. Typically, he was going in, the early second, mid to late second. Just depends, because after the first round of your drafts, the first couple rounds, it just becomes, it's a fiesta at that point. It's a party where everyone's just doing whatever the heck they want. They're just grabbing players left and right. All I know is that as of right now, Nick Chubb is going to be moved into the first round of the draft. At that rate, I'm very comfortable with him at the back end of the first half. I don't know what kind of potential he has in the passing game. I'm sure he's going to be given 18-plus rushing attempts a game like he was last season, 7 out of the last 10 games. So I'm pretty excited about this. Nick Chubb, we're ready. Kareem Hunt, really quickly. What is he going to do when he comes back? Well, if Nick Chubb can't get it done in the passing game, Kareem Hunt is going to be the full receiving back of that team. He's capable in doing so. We've seen it when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs last season throughout his career. So for those of you who are considering or have shares of Kareem Hunt, sure, his value goes up just a tad bit, but I don't know, man. I have a hard time thinking that if, in fact, Nick Chubb is just running all over the National Football League, they're going to turn away from him and turn towards a Kareem Hunt at a pretty good basis. I don't see that happening. But anyway, give me your guys' thoughts. Go down in the comment section. What do you guys think of this specific trade? Do you like it for Duke Johnson? Do you like the potential of Nick Chubb? What do you think about Kareem Hunt because of this news? Let me know down in the comment section. If you like this video, click that like button. If you haven't yet already, click the subscribe button. Join the community. Fantasy football content every day for the next, 4 months, potentially 5-6 months, maybe for the rest of my life. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But until next time, guys, which will be probably later today, potentially some preseason games happening. Maybe I'll review those. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And until then, I'll see you guys. Peace.